I'm Traci Austin, your host of the People Strategy Podcast. This show provides interviews with organizational leaders and ongoing coaching experiences that highlight elevating people in organizations through a people strategy roadmap.
It starts with you because joy is contagious. And so if you as a leader can just today in the morning with your coffee journal, what are 5 things I can do today that are going to pump me up?
Welcome to the People Strategy Podcast. My name is Traci Austin and I am your host. And today is an incredibly special episode. This is episode number 200. So we've been at this for almost 3 years. So what started as the talent optimization podcast shifted to the People Strategy Podcast last year. And I am so incredibly grateful to every single one of you as our listeners for being with us on this journey, for giving your feedback, for giving us those 5-star reviews, and, just sharing the joy in what you do every day in your workplace and creating fulfilling work. So thank you. So with that, a gratitude to begin with. So I want to thank Byron Lowe, who was on our podcast. It was episode number 160. We'll link it in the show notes. And Byron talked about the impact of your big why on your people strategy. And I'm bringing that up today because if we're not clear on what we're doing and the why behind it, so that we're so excited about that it oozes all over everything, it's really difficult to bring that to your team authentically and to have joy in the work to be fulfilled. So with that, I'm thrilled to introduce Hannah McKitrick as our guest today. So Hannah, welcome to the People Strategy Podcast.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Happy 200.
Yay, isn't this fun? I'm so excited for 200. And so Hannah runs an organization called My Intuitive Health. And one of the things that Hannah does is Hannah hosts luxury culinary wellness retreats. She also hosts virtual retreats for teams all around, the dinner table or the stove, whatever you want to call it. But to ensure that we are truly fulfilled in what we're doing, but we're bringing joy into the work that we do every day. Hannah, do you want to describe it differently than that?
No, I mean, I think that's good. It's really mind, body, soul fulfillment, like thriving from within so that your business can thrive and like your life can thrive because it's all connected. So I do the cooking classes virtually, making healthy food fun, and then retreats, making like self-growth and coming back into your essence really fun.
Yes, absolutely. And so with that, I'm excited to dig in today. We really look at, the people strategies that we bring into organizations. So Hannah, tell us a little bit about why is it so important for you to bring joy into the workplace, either for yourself or for those you consult with? Like, why do you do what you do?
Yeah. So to me, joy is everything. And I know the depth of it because I know the depth of the other side, like misery, not to be dramatic, but
nobody's miserable at work.
Right. Right. And so coming out of college, like I had fire under my ass. Like I was just like ready to take on the world and like do the thing. And I kept trying to find my passion in a job, and I kept finding like a fraction of it, a little bit. And it was so tainted by so much toxic culture. And, one of the things, well, in my first job, I mean, I was in a cubicle. I was downstairs in a basement. There was no windows. And I was just like, this is life? Like, what? And there was a quote across that first cubicle, and it said, life isn't nearly as serious as the mind makes it out to be. And I had to have that anchor point because I felt it was just so serious there. And I was like, you guys, can't we just like chill? Like we're all humans, like, and it felt artificial and inauthentic to me, to be honest. And I ended up quitting that job after about 1.5 years because 1, I got bored. I was not fulfilled. And 2, I wanted adventure. So I quit that job and went to culinary school in Italy, which is where, my spark came for my passion, what I do. And so my desire to create that for myself was so deep and intrinsic. It's like I just felt like I couldn't settle. And once I got to Italy, I experienced a euphoria that I did not know was possible. And my greatest joy now is bringing people along on that journey, because like I'm not the only one that gets to have euphoria. Like we all can create it for ourselves. And it's interesting, Traci, because I remember so many people when I did this thing of quitting my job and going to Italy, the number one thing people said was, I'm so jealous. And to them, I don't know if I said this at the time because I was 23 and didn't have like as many words, but what I would say now is you can do this too. You're just not brave enough, not courageous enough, not willing to give it all up, not willing to, it was only 3 months that I was pausing my life for. And the retreats I go on now, it's a week. And the people that are willing to be courageous and be brave and go on that leap, like they're giving themselves that euphoria that then infiltrates into every aspect of their life.
Right. And I think some of it is not always a not, but they've never seen an example of what's possible.
Yeah.
They've never given themselves permission to dare to dream or ever had anyone say, have you thought about, and can you see in your own environment what's possible? Because if we don't see it in our environment of that expander for us to step into that, we're not going to.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And people ask me all the time, they're like, oh, do you do US retreats? And I'm like, not as much. And the reason being is because there's something about that land in southern Italy and Calabria that the view, it's like a 180-degree view of the Ionian Sea. And it's so expansive, just like you said, like it takes your breath away and it right in front of you just embeds you in possibility. Like you can't not think expansively when you're there.
Right. And so what I'm hearing, my leaders or my HR folks in my head going, Traci, this isn't possible for me.
Yeah.
Right. And so here's what I want my listeners to ask themselves right now. If you don't believe that's possible for you right now, what is possible? One of the things, I think, Hannah, you know this because we've talked about it, but I picked up this book by Ben Nyman last year called The Bucket List, and it's 100 items on the bucket list. And I've been checking off this bucket list. So within that, it's pick the things that are close that allow you to bring joy within that, so that is a step into the next step into the step. And that may be Italy. That may be what those others are. But for our leaders, it is really looking at and saying, how do we open a door into what is possible? And I think I want to bring this back to you, Hannah, with how do you co-create joy with your clients so that they can bring that into their organizations as that people strategy?
Yeah, I mean, in number one, like I do the Italy retreat and I allow them, what I like to do is embodied experiences for people to step in and feel that. And this is what I also do, the virtual cooking classes, and you've experienced that. And my intention, yes, it's to make healthy cooking fun, make food easy, bring in community. But the other piece of it is to give people an energy shift into joy, to hold them in that vibration of like happiness. Because I'm happiest when I'm in the kitchen. Like I love food. And honestly, that's why I originally started my business around food, is because I was like, I'm going to be my best self this way. And I want to show up as my best self, my most creative self, myself that's not in my head and overthinking stuff. And that is me when I'm chopping things. And so in the classes, I like to just give people a felt experience, and they're not thinking about it. They're not like trying to achieve an outcome. They're just being in the experience and get to feel that intrinsic joy. And same goes for Italy. Like my intention for the weeks that I bring people to, like there's a bunch of different micro intentions that people create and that I create, but ultimately it's to blow their minds with bliss and fun and play. And the schedule and the itinerary is really like curated and intentionally crafted to create that, like whether that's at a winery, like, popping off with your ladies, or like in the kitchen doing handmade pasta and homemade gelato, or like in our intimate alignment coaching circles where you're getting really present into what you want to desire and shedding anything that's not in resonance with your next level of who you're stepping into.
Right. So for our listeners, I want to bring this back is you just had an incredible example of an expander of what is possible. And what I want you to think about is how do you paint that picture for your team of something for them? How do you paint that picture so that they can have some experiences within work or outside of work that allows them to truly step into that? And for you, when's the last time you brought joy into your day-to-day that you could bring back to work? I know for me, when I do and I unplug and I just be within those things that I love, what happens is I am so much more focused, so much more in flow, and create much better work product and quality than I do when I'm not. And so I just want you to think about those things as you're hearing Hannah talk about these amazing experiences, and what the possibilities are. Because what I'm hearing is many of you saying, well, that's not possible for me. But what if it is?
Yeah. And like you're saying, Traci, like it starts with them, like it starts with you, because joy is contagious. And so if you as a leader can just today in the morning with your coffee, journal, what are 5 things I can do today that are going to pump me up, like that are going to make me feel so happy, whether that's like going for a run and like, or like having like a really nice meal with your partner, like whatever it might be, like bring that joy into the day, and your team, like who you're surrounded by, they will pick up on that and you will be the inspiration. And that is the ripple effect that you get to create.
Yeah, absolutely. And within that ripple, right? So as we're talking about kind of the ripple effects that we create, us really truly being in our authentic leadership. We talk a lot about predictive index on the podcast and creating teams. And I know for you, one of the items that you do really, really well is working with teams to bring them much closer together. And I know you took the predictive index and you were a collaborator, and I'm a maverick, which are two completely different, different in how we show up within that. But what's beautiful about knowing exactly who we are, and there's tons of different assessments out there. If you want to take the PI, I'll have that in the show notes. But with that being said, when we pay attention to our core strength and activate that, the impact that that has on everyone else around us. So how has that shown up for you, Hannah?
Yeah, well, I just want to name something, Traci, of what you're speaking of is, whether it's this test or something else, it's permissioning you to work how you work. And that is where the lightness comes from, is when you can put what you're doing through your own filter instead of someone else's filter, whether that's what you eat, how you do your job, how you get clients, how you're successful. Like, so there's so many different theories and systems that, like, the importance is to permission yourself to come back to your own authority and make that radically right. And so for me, I'm a collaborator, and forgive me, I'm kind of a newbie to the PI. This is a little fancy for me. But and so can you actually just give me like a 1-sentence like synopsis?
100%.
Yeah.
So here's a collaborator in a nutshell. Are we ready?
Yeah.
All right. Your highest strength is kind of knowing what the items are, and you like to follow a process, right? So you like to know what's out there, follow the process. You are going to be responsive to what's needed. You're also going to be people focused over task focused. You're going to follow the checklist, but you're going to focus it through people versus the task, really highlighting and pulling in the people that are there. You are also someone that give you 5 bullet points you're not going to read or write the 72-page book. The rules and deadlines are somewhat negotiable. Like, do they really matter? Why does it matter? So when I see that for you, it's like, especially with how you process, like, you love a good recipe, but you also love the ability to play with the recipe, to align it to who you are. And that's where like that, I have to follow this to the core. No. I'll follow a process, but I'm going to put other things in that align authentically with who I am and the people that I'm with to bring that joy.
Yeah. And I would say like the number one thing that stands out in that, besides what you already named, is like the people. Like I love being with people. I love holding space for people. I can intuit their needs. I can read the room like that. And I think it's what makes it flow both in my classes and on retreats. And it's like people deserve to be held like that in a space where someone's guiding them into exactly what they need and want, like
Yeah.
not that I'm reading their mind, like just a little bit, but like, you know what I mean? And so I definitely have like a people to people connection. And like in terms of rules, like before this podcast, Traci was like, oh, did you do your homework? Like, do you have your things ready to go? And I was like, no. Like I thought we were just gonna chat, like me and you, and we are, but like it's
and then IT gods were not happy with us and all the things went wrong.
Right. Yeah.
We're like, okay.
Exactly.
So for our listener, Hannah is being such an amazing expander right now and talking into what her strengths are as a leader. And what I'd love for each of you to really think about is, where are your strengths? More than likely, they're not the same as Hannah's. They're not the same as mine, but your strengths are unique to you. And when you authentically step into what those strengths are with your team and collaborate with others around you, you don't have to be a collaborator to collaborate. But essentially what I mean by that is when you turn your strengths up and bring a team together where your weakness, because guess what, we all have them, and the weakness is the opposite of what our strengths are. But when your weakness is their strength, and we work that to get the business results based on what we're executing as a team, what it does is it allows us all to be more aligned with what we're doing, which brings work being much more fulfilling because we're doing the things we're meant to be doing, but also bringing that joy in. If we don't go back to the why and what lights it up, we're just going through the motions.
Right.
And so one of the things that I know we've talked about, Hannah, and I want to share, I would love for you to share with the group, is what are some of those biggest impacts of the business leaders when they go back to their team after the retreat?
Yeah. So, can everyone imagine like a situation when they get to work and their boss is just like up on them, like yelling at them? It's like, like they're just like, everything is just so heavy. It's so tense in the environment. And you're like, what did I do wrong? And so one of the number one things that the feedback I get from the leaders that come on my retreat, they go back into their life and they are like, things that I thought mattered just don't anymore. And they just take things more lightly. Like it's not life or death. It's actually like allowing things to flow without gripping so tightly to it all. And in turn, like that has that ripple effect on everyone around them so that you don't like just come in with this angry, bad mood and like affect everyone around you, but rather they're so solid in themselves and in their own joy. And like that's actually it. Like they come home with a full cup and they're happy with what they're doing. And when you're happy in yourself and fulfilled in yourself, the little things, they don't carry as much weight and they don't rock you as much because you're solid.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you're rooted, you know what your why is.
Yeah. And the other thing, like I will say it because, we all like money, right? And so one of the things that happens is when people are on the retreats, one of the transformations that happen is they're really able to tap into their own essence and like who they are at the core and like their own fulfillment and like really embody that, which in turn creates this magnetism for more of that. Like their mindset shifts into more abundance, and in turn it creates more of that. Like people have crazy money stories that have come on my retreat, like I call it magic money. Like it just pops out of nowhere, like book royalties, like random bonuses, like all of this stuff. And they're like, like I was just having fun on the coast of Italy and then I made more money. And it's like, yeah, because like when you're having fun, like that is what attracts that like opulence and like abundance.
It raises the vibration for yourself and you bring that back and it trickles through everyone that is around you.
Yeah.
So as you know, we work with so many HR folks and so many business owners, and what's happening with burnout and frustration and whatnot. Well, it's guess what? You always have a choice. And there's always a way to shift that. And, I hope that this conversation today is one of those. It's like, all right, what is possible? Because when we have that expander and that example, it's something that we can step into. And so since this is our 200th episode, Hannah and I have a very exciting announcement. And that is we are taking a group of ladies to Italy in November. So the dates are November 1st through 7th of 2025. And the intention for this is really looking at what is possible within that. And I don't know about you, but I know there's several listeners that I talk to and several of the folks that I'm talking to that they're burnt out. Their bodies are burnt out. They've lost what that spark is. And as we shift that, it doesn't have to be so serious. And as we step into 2025, it is a completely new way and can be a new way of doing things. And that is really what we're looking at. So to blend in magical experiences along with the culinary piece, and Hannah's phenomenal, by the way, with her cooking classes, but also really looking at how do we create that structure for our teams? So if you've been looking for an opportunity to combine, that luxury with some of the culinary items, like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired of cooking, tater tot casserole and chicken broccoli casserole with cheese on it. This is a great opportunity for that, along with, how do we really understand what are my key strengths and how do I step into that leadership, but then to go in and create that with a team. That is what we are doing. What did I miss, Hannah?
Well, I just want to say that, one thing you missed, it's about a community of soul sisters. Like, if you want to be alone for a week, don't come here. Because during this week, like, I was actually talking to a friend earlier who does retreats, and she was like, yeah, I have them on their own for dinners. And I was like, oh, my retreats will never be on their own for dinner, because it is such, like, talking about teams, like, it's its own little team. Like, it's so cohesive, and the bonding that happens when you are on retreat with like-minded women who are open, who are like in that growth mindset and like doing this bold, courageous thing for themselves, it gels you when you're able to share like deep, vulnerable shit and like have people witness you and accept you and be like, me too, and all of that. Like, it gels you. And so the community of soul sisters, like, hands down, like, people that come on my retreats still Zoom every week because like you bond. And the other thing that I want to mention is that it's not a what was I going to say? It's not a temporary fix. It actually, going on retreat, it changes you on a cellular level. Like, you embed a new way of being that is lighter, like 100% guaranteed, money back. Like, I promise you, like, you will leave a lighter version of yourself. And what, like, as Traci said, with newfound inspiration in your business, support in how you might want to restructure your team, or maybe you're looking to make your first hire and like want to bring on like that person, but you're like, I don't even know what that person, like, I don't know what they do, but I know that I hate all, like, we will help you create that synergy back so that you can be that lightest, most powerful version of yourself.
Absolutely. So for our listeners, if you're sitting here going, yes, I want to, let me sign up. In the show notes, we will have a wait list because we are going to open this up on Valentine's Day on February 14th. Because what better way to have the sign up be on the day that you get to love yourself?
Because we love you guys so much.
So, but the wait list will be out there. But the other thing I want to name for those of you that are like, hey, that is not in the cards for me right now. What is the visioning for you? What truly brings you joy? And how can you start building that in day to day inside of a community? And that community can be, Hannah's weekly cooking class. That community can be, your local Y, whatever that is. One of my favorite things was I joined a work share at a local farm that was always at the farmer's market. And at the point in time, like, number of things were happening. I'm like, I can't afford my weekly box. So I called them and I'm like, hey, is there a way that we can still do this? She's like, yeah, we do a work share every Thursday night. Do you want to come out and work on the farm on Thursday nights? Yes, please. Right. So there's so many ways to do that. as to what brings you joy.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, go figure out what that is and take it back to work with your team.
Yeah. You love it.
Amazing. So all the things are there. So 2 questions for you, Hannah. Super serious now as we start to wrap up. What is a work bucket list for you for 2025?
Oh, that's a really good one. So I am actually looking for one team, either like an entire team or just like the executive leadership team, who wants me to lead their retreat and like pump them up with joy and like bring in that cohesion and like completely change the trajectory of that company.
Amazing. And what is a personal bucket list item for you for 2025?
Meet my soulmate. If you know him, let me know.
So here's the question.
Okay.
What I love to do, and by the way, I asked every guest these 2 questions, is how do we combine the work bucket list and the personal bucket list item together? So
oh my God, he's going to be on the team.
Take on retreat.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Soulmate, if you hear this, make sure you're on the retreat.
Amazing. So with that, we've got joy as a people strategy and really looking at how do you bring joy into your life to bring that lightness back to your team. The sign up for the waitlist is in the show notes, and we cannot wait to talk with you next week and potentially see you in Italy with us in November. Thanks so much.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you so much for listening today. I'd love to connect with you. If you'd like to connect, you can find me on LinkedIn at Traci, Traci Austin, and at our website at elevatedtalentconsulting.com. If you'd love to learn more about our process, please reach out to us. And again, thank you so much for listening and sharing your feedback with us through a review. Have a fantastic day.